Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this presentation, another fine SCTC presentation from the Longmont Senior Center Tech Connect. Today's presentation is all about password managers. We're going to be going over Password Managers, the Beginner's Guide. My name is North. I'm a volunteer coach and trainer here at the SCTC group, and I'm very thrilled to be here this morning. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Today, we are talking about password managers, managing your online identity, organizing your passwords and your logins, and also a hidden benefit side effect of password managing is preparing your digital footprint. We're going to talk about all of these. We're going to talk about all of these aspects as we go through the presentation this morning. So, first and foremost, welcome. We are glad you're here. We love that you're an active participant in the Senior Center Tech Connect community. We couldn't do this without your support and your participation. So, again, thank you for being here today. And the goal for today, we understand that password management is extremely complex. A lot of folks are confused about it, and we're going to try and boil this down and simplify it as much as we can today. So let's get started. Who am I and why am I here? My name is North Rittner. I am a senior cybersecurity engineer by trade. I'm a volunteer coach and trainer here with SCTC. I'm what they call a white hat hacker, meaning I work in cybersecurity and I manipulate passwords to try and break into systems legally because that's what companies and folks hire me to do. I'm also a social engineer, which we can talk about that a little bit later. And also, by trade, I own a company called RMTS Colorado. We are a cybersecurity consulting firm here in Northern Colorado. All that is to say is the reason why I'm talking about passwords today is because I work in this industry. I work in this environment 28 hours a day, 394 days a year. And so I have a lot of background in this subject. So here we go. Let's talk about what we're going to do today. First thing, we need to understand our online identity. Before we can talk about password management, we got to talk about our online identity so you understand what it is. Then we're going to talk about, once we know what it is, we're going to talk about how we defend it. How do we defend our online identity? After we talked about what it is, how we protect it, then we're going to talk about how it all works together, and then we're going to have some summary and questions near the end. So today's presentation is about an hour long with about 30 minutes of Q&A time at the end. So one thing about questions is if you do have questions, since your microphone is muted, please do use the chat. Drop your questions in chat as you go along. If something comes up, definitely write it down and save it for the Q&A section, and we'll get to as many questions as we can today. So here we go. Section number one, your online identity, the basics. Here it is in a nutshell. Every time you create an online account, when you navigate to a website and go to log in or create an account, you're entrusting that company to protect your information. And if you've seen the news headlines recently, you know that there are some companies that aren't as good as others at guarding your data. So that is the wild, wild west that we live in today. Is your data is a hot commodity for folks that want to take that data. So understanding that when you sign up with an account online, create a username and password, and then fill out the information for that site, you are entrusting that company to guard your data. So that is the concept that you need to understand, is entrusting another company. But as you've seen in headlines, some companies aren't as good. Passwords are more than just keys to access websites and accounts. They are also keys to your digital identity. And we're going to talk about what that is here in a minute. I'm sure that you've seen headline after headline about, oh my gosh, this website was breached. This data breach occurred. Almost seems like we're seeing multiple a week now. But the thing is, why that's important to you is when a breach occurs, you have to understand that your password, even if it's a super clever long password, the bad guys aren't breaking passwords anymore. They're literally stealing passwords from data breaches or phishing attacks. So no matter how clever your password is, if it's stolen in a data breach by no fault of your own, that password is at risk because the bad guys have a copy of it. So how do we know? How do we find out if our passwords are safe or not? Well, the first tool is a website called Have I Been Pwned? And yes, I know pwned is actually a real word in vernacular, but it's www.haveibeenpwned.com. It's on your screen here. It's also in your handout. But use that website. The way that it works is you navigate to the website, put in your email address, and it will tell you, has my password or passwords been compromised over the past few years? So that's step one, is to find out where we are at risk. So basically what Have I Been Pwned is it's a global database of every data breach dating back to, I want to say, 2004, 2005, something like that. So you can catch data for quite a while. Now, in 2025, 2026, they don't have numbers for 2026 yet. We're still a little bit too early in the year, but 284 million compromised online records in just a couple of data breaches last year. And this is year after year after year. That included 244 million new passwords that were exposed just last year, along with websites and email pairs. And we're going to talk about websites, email pairs, and passwords here in just a second. But the key is password harvesting is big business in the cybercrime world. So, no matter how clever your passwords are, the key is you need to know if the password that you're using is compromised. And we're going to show you how to do that today. First rule of password management is you cannot protect what you cannot see. And it's not just password management, that's digital security in general. You can't protect what you can't see. Uh, the question here for your passwords is, what do you know about your passwords, logins, and your online records? So we're going to discuss records at length today. So we need to understand what a record is. So if you've got notes, you're going to want to jot this down because this is a fundamental detail about password management that you have to really, really ingrain in your head. A record is three parts. There's three parts to a record. Now, for managing your passwords or your records, you need to know these three things. First off, you need to know what a record is. We'll answer that in the next slide. But do you know them all? Do you know what all of your records are? Do you know where they're stored? And do you know which ones are at risk? So these are the three big questions in password management. In order to manage your online identity effectively, you need to be able to answer these questions. So by the end of the day, you're going to have a framework of how you can answer those three questions. Do you know all of your records? Do you know where they're stored? And do you know which ones are at risk? So that's the big three that we're going to talk about today. So your online footprint and records. So here is what a record is. So make sure you jot this down because this is really, really important. Online records consist of three things. So when you hear record, you know it means the username or the login. It's usually an email address, but banking institutions make you come up with a custom or a unique login name. But that's the first part, the email address and the login name, your password, and the website it's associated with. So those three things together create an online record, which is the basis for password management. Okay, so again, this is something that you really want to ingest, digest, and fully understand because as we move forward, when we're referencing a record, it's a combination of those three things: username, password, and the website it's associated with. So with that, we've got the foundational knowledge lined up here. So let's talk about, we're going to do a little bit of a thought exercise here. And Mindy, yeah, we're going to put that URL or that website in chat here by the end of the presentation today. So I'll make sure everybody's got that. So your online footprint and your records. So let's talk about password management. So we've got a little bit of a table here that has 5 websites. We've got one that's your email. We've got one that's your bank site. We've got Amazon, Facebook, and then third-party credit card site. Pick your credit card company. Okay. The username for all of them in this case is going to be your email address. So your username is the same all the way across the board. Okay. Now the password, in this case, our user is, I'm going to use a password and I'm going to change things up. Okay. So I'm going to use one good password with an exclamation point, one good password, capitalized PW, and then they change the special symbol or move the special symbol around. The problem with the human mind is they're going to go through about 9 to 11 iterations or versions of the same password, but we're going to forget which ones are where. So when we reuse passwords, as we can see here highlighted in red, we've reused a password. Okay. So we're going to talk about this, the thought exercise, about what could possibly go wrong if you're reusing a password in multiple sites. The last thing to keep in mind here, okay, is when you go to reset passwords, this is a really, really important detail that you need to understand. So we've got our record, our website, username, and passwords. So there is our complete record for our email, for bank, for Amazon, Facebook. So website, username, password. Every account has a mechanism to reset that password. And 99% of the time, that's going to go to your email address. And so I've pulled that up. Um, so I've made sure that we list how we reset passwords and what email address we use to do that. Okay. So let's talk about this. Let's take a moment here and talk about what is a data breach. Okay. So a data breach is stolen records, again, username, password, website, sold on the dark web that can be used by attackers. So when a data breach occurs, they steal the records and then they sell them online. And then whatever data is in there, they create what are called target lists based off of data breaches. So that's what this means to you. So this whole table will pretend that this was part of a data breach. So all of this information now is online for the bad guys to use in attacks. So they're going to populate that target list. So let's do a little bit of thought exercise. What happens if your email password is compromised? So we're going to talk about this for a second. In this table, we can see that our Facebook account has the same password as your bank account. Okay. So the problem is you can go to either of those websites and log in from anywhere you're at. The problem is the bad guys can do the same thing. I can go to Facebook, put in whatever username I want based off of an email, and as long as I've got that password, I can try and log in, and there's nothing that anybody can do to stop me. Okay, same thing with the bank site. So this is the thought exercise we want to talk about is if I've got your Facebook password, which also happens to be your bank account password, I can then go through all of the accounts that you have online and try that password over and over again and see which one it works. So that's why when we talk about password management, we say use a different password for every account because we don't want to accidentally use our Facebook password, which may not be a sensitive account, but if your Facebook password is tied to your bank account, all of a sudden that becomes a big problem because if your password was involved in a data breach and it's sold on the dark web, the bad guys are going to try and use that password on every account they find online using this email address. And so if that's why it's a problem reusing passwords. So I really want you to understand the records, why they're important, and why password reuse is so dangerous. So, but let's go back to this thought exercise. So, the bank account, if you need to change your password, they're going to send you an email to a link. I'm sure that everybody here has done that, where they send you a link, click the link, and then go change your password. Well, what happens if your email password is compromised and that bad guy can log into your email account? The problem is if the bad guy gets a hold of your email account, they can go to every other site, bank account, Amazon, credit card, Facebook, because all of those password resets are run through your email address. So if your email password is compromised, it can quickly turn into a really bad day because if a bad guy gets a hold of your email because of a weak or a breached password that you're unaware of, it can quickly turn into a bad day because they can then change passwords to every other account that you have, because those password resets are going to go back to your email. So what do we do? How do we figure out, how do we get ahead of this? So I'm going to give you a few more stats here. The average user has, it used to be 150, but as of 2025, the average is about 180 online accounts plus. So that includes financial, banking, credit card, retirement accounts, email, government accounts like IRS, socialsecurity.com, social media, file sharing accounts like Google Drive, Dropbox, all the online cloud storage drives. And then you've got your streaming services, your online shopping, and your hobby accounts. Um, so let's talk about this. With 180 accounts, can you answer the big three questions? Do I know all of my records? Do I know where they are all saved? And do I know which ones are at risk because of a breached or a dangerous password? So 180 accounts plus, that's a really difficult task to answer those three questions if you're not managing your passwords properly. So let's talk about this. You can't protect what you can't see. So again, your passwords, logins, and online records, do you know them all? Do you know where they're stored? And do you know which ones are at risk? So if we've all got between 150 to 180 plus online records, in order to manage your online identity, you need to be able to answer all three of these questions. So you need to ask yourself, okay, what tool am I using to defend my online identity, which is all of your records? Okay, so let's go into part two. Now that we know what our online identity is, let's talk about easy ways that we can defend our online identity. We're going to start with tools and habits. Every time you create an online account, you should be storing them accurately as the first. Okay, because I don't know if this has happened to anybody else where you go to create an online account, you think you write it down, 3 weeks later, you try and log back in, you type in what you've written down, and it says, oops, I'm sorry, you've got the wrong password. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever experienced that. So this is the first habit that we need to really pay attention to, is you should be storing your passwords accurately. Um, and you should know when something goes wrong. So that's one and two: accurate records, and then knowing when something goes wrong. Is my password breached? Have I reused my password? So let's talk about the common methods of password manager. Almost everybody who started using the interwebs back in the 90s, when it came out and passwords, logins were a thing, folks had password manager books, little notebooks. It could be a spiral bound notebook. It could be literally a password book that looks like an address book. But we all started with pen and paper. The good news is they're easy to use. Bad news is the ease of use is the only real benefit of using pen and paper. There's more risks associated with pen and paper than benefits. And if you're using pen and paper, there's nothing wrong with that, but you just need to understand the risks associated. Number one is there's a high risk of loss. Whether you leave it somewhere, you spill coffee on it. There's a high risk of damage and loss to a paper password management process. High risk of mistakes. There's handwritten legibility issues with passwords. Did you accidentally mean a capital I versus a lower I, or maybe it's a lowercase l? Being able to read the handwriting, that's a big problem as well with legibility, and being able to identify, especially if you write all of your letters out in capitals by habit, being able to identify, wait, oops, nope, that's not a capital. That's a little lowercase a, not an uppercase a. So that's the challenge with pen and paper, is human habit of how we write down passwords. Now, the other one is a digital record, which is just fine. This eliminates the legibility issue because you're typing it on screen. That's going to be something like a spreadsheet or a Word doc or some kind of file online, which again is really easy to use. But again, it can be the risk of loss. I've had folks tell me, I had this wonderful spreadsheet, and then I saved it somewhere and lost it, and I don't know where it is on my computer. So the risk of loss there, if you have it on a computer and the computer crashes and you can't recover that file, there's that risk of loss as well. And then risk of falling out of sync. I mean, you've got this wonderful, wonderful spreadsheet, but if you change your password and forget to copy it over, then all of a sudden your password is out of sync and you've got the wrong password stored in your document. And from my line of work, when I do get hired to do what's called an incursion, where I go through, I actually, the first thing I do is scan every computer on the internet or on that network for a company. And I see, does anybody have a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or some type of document that has password records? Because again, a record with a username, password, and website, that's easy for the bad guys to see because I scan the computer for those three pairs, and if those three pairs are in a document, I can quickly pull that document and find out, okay, ooh, I got all your passwords stored in an unsafe file on your computer. So again, spreadsheets, nothing wrong with them. You just need to understand the risk involved. So, and then let's talk about browsers. So browsers are things like your Google Chrome, your Firefox, your Microsoft Edge. All three of them have the capability of storing your passwords. So, yes, they are technically managing your passwords, allowing you to store your records and your passwords, but they don't have encryption, they don't have security wrapped around them. So, yes, they're a good tool, but they're not the most secure tool, which leads us to the third-party apps. They're installed in any device. They can go across whether you use Apple, whether you use Microsoft, whether you use Android. It doesn't matter. The third-party apps will go. You can use them across all devices, and they store your passwords and records in one place. So um, the other nice thing about both browsers and third-party apps is they provide what's called autofill. So you don't have to worry about typing your passwords. For the most part, there are some exceptions to that rule, but that autofill, it's a really nice feature. It prevents from having to type out passwords because it will automatically fill the password field when you go to log in. And we're going to demo that here in a bit. But the thing that is really, really important about third-party apps is that third part, do you know which passwords are at risk? Now, the browser password managers over the past couple of years have started with the dark web monitoring to indicate and let you know, oops, am I using a password that's been breached on the dark web? But the reality is the browsers are not designed to be password managers. The browser is a tool that you use to browse the internet. It's got some password manager functionality, but it's not really designed to do that. So the dark web monitoring in the browser is hit or miss at this point. The third-party apps are really designed to do that 24-hour monitoring of your passwords and let you know if you're using a breached or compromised password. So all of this is to say is it doesn't matter how you're managing your passwords. I'm not saying one is wrong at all. What we're exploring today is just the options to do a much more thorough and better job of managing your passwords so that you know when you're operating in an environment of risk. Because the first thing that we need to start doing is figuring out, are my passwords at risk? And all of these methods, with the exception of browsers and third-party apps, you're never going to know if the password that you're using is compromised because digital records and pen and paper do not offer that functionality. So that's the bottom line here. Of the four options, browsers and third parties are going to give you that knowledge of, am I using a bad password? So what should you be doing? Here's the bottom line, and this is minimum. Okay. So think about how you're managing your passwords and see if you're making it to the basic level. Your basic carrier password should be I like to say a minimum of 14 character. If you can hit 17 character, that's fantastic, but minimum 14 characters. Okay. And use passphrases for things that you have to type. Okay, like the password to get into your laptop or the password you have to get in to something like your password manager. Make it something that you can type because nobody likes to type big A, little one, splat, or asterisk or greater than sign. Nobody likes to type those complex passwords. So use a passphrase, something like, I like apples too. That has all four components: uppercase, lowercase, special characters, and numbers. And if you look at that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that quickly hits 14 characters. And it's something simple like, I like apples too. It's easy to remember, easy to type, 14 characters, away we go. You're doing really well with that. Um, but again, unique passwords for every account and monitoring for breaches. So this in computing 2026, this is the basic thing that you should be doing. If you're not doing all four of these things, you may want to reassess how you're managing your passwords. Now, the pro level, if you're computing like a pro in 2026, you're using 16 plus character passwords. All of my passwords are 20 characters plus because I know that the longer the password, the harder it is for a computer to try and break that password. And again, I use a password or passphrase generator. I don't think of my own passwords. I have the system generate it for me. So I don't have to waste my time and my brain power trying to come up with a password. I let the system do it for me. And I do have unique passwords for every account without exception. And then I've got real-time monitoring. So that's how pro level password managers operate is we have strong passwords, long passwords that are custom that are created by a system so I don't have to think of them. Different password for every account, and we monitor every single one. So that's pro level password management. So let's talk about the options. I created this. This is in your handout. So you can really look and see, okay, what are the risk levels, all the different things about the four types of password management. So we're going to talk about pen and paper and digital documents, okay? The red areas are things of concern. So the risk level is moderate to high in both of those. And the detection, there is no detection. So when I'm considering what is my best option for password management, I look at the things that are called non-starters that I'm not going to waste my time learning or using a tool that doesn't give me full benefit that I'm looking for. Okay. And that's pen and paper, digital docs. They're good in a pinch, but I'm not going to use those as a source of truth. Now, browsers and third-party apps, the trade-off is there is a learning curve to both of them. This is something that you actually have to put the effort in, and it's to start about a moderate to high effort, learning these tools, learning how they work, learning where to find them. The learning curve is the big issue with browser and third-party app password managers. And then the other aspect of that is the browser. There's no cost involved in that. The third party app, that's where it could be a hurdle, is because to get the better tools, they do come with a price. So the third party apps, the cost can be none, too expensive. I've seen some password managers on an enterprise level, small business level, that's upwards of $250 to $300 a year. The average user can get a really good password manager with all the dark web monitoring for about $30 a year. So think of it as insurance against your passwords. So if you do decide to go a third party app, you're going to get all the benefits of the autofill, the auto login, the auto generate, the monitoring and the alerting. It is really today the most secure way to manage your passwords. And most third party apps, we're going to talk about this briefly, it is the passkey ready because later this year we're already at the point where passkeys are starting to proliferate, or you're starting to see them more and more. But passkeys are something that is really confusing a lot of people. But a password manager, a third party password manager, helps resolve that confusion and simplifies passkey management, which is going to be a real thing for folks here this year, 2026, and later on as we move. So we are going to talk about passkeys today. So bottom line is, of all of your options, browser and third party is the minimum. Browsers are the minimum that you should be doing for password manager just to know where they are and if there is at least a little bit of dark web monitoring on those. So at the least the browser, it's all stored in one place. It automatically collects it and it gives you that autofill, and the syncing is a little bit better. So at the very bare minimum, I would start exploring browsers and I would start exploring third party apps for the password management if you're not already. My choice, I always like the third party app because that way it doesn't matter what device I'm on. I will always be able to get to my passwords because the third party app, one concept you need to understand is the third party app, your passwords are not stored on that device. They're stored in the cloud that will allow you to connect to your passwords on any device, anywhere in the world. And that is a huge benefit. And we'll talk about that here We'll talk about why here in just a minute. So now that we've talked about the options, we know what a record is. Let's talk about how it all works together. Okay. Now, a couple of things here, like any new tool or skill, you need to practice to get comfortable. I've given a list of password managers. Let's talk about the $1,000 question here. Which one do I choose? Um, so, Sonny, I do see your question. Can you about trust with password managers? We are definitely going to talk about that starting right now. So this is where the trust starts coming in. Okay, so I'm giving you six options here. The top six in my review, my research. Now there's if you Google best password managers on the market, you're going to get 50 different results with 50 different answers. Now, um, these six are the ones that I've really vetted over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I actually use Bitwarden, Keeper, and Proton Pass. Those are the three that I use of choice. I also work with 1Password because I have a lot of clients that use 1Password. So I can speak to all six of these because I've got firsthand hands-on knowledge with all of them. So first things first, you'll notice that there is an asterisk after every vendor name. What that means is it has a limited free account, either by time restrictions, by number of records, or number of devices. Okay. So every one of them has a free version that you can test. Bitwarden is the only one that is perpetually free with unlimited number of records that you can upload into your vault. All of the rest of them either have a 7-day free trial or they limit you to 10 to 25 records. Okay. And if we go back a few slides, the average household has, or the average user has 180 records. So that's where that limitation comes in. So first thing you need to understand is whichever tool that you're choosing, yes, there is a free option to test and play with, but understand the limits of the tool. So let's talk about the one that I absolutely disqualify as Dashlane. And there's multiple reasons why I steer people away from Dashlane, and it has to do with functioning and their customer service and how they do business. I am not a big fan of a company that puts PR or public relations above security functionality. And Dashlane over the past 5, 10 years has really proven time and again that that's what they do. So I'm not trying to be rude, but out of just honesty and my research, Dashlane is one. If you're using, that's fine. But I don't recommend it to folks simply because of their business model, how they choose to do business. So which ones do I recommend? And again, Bitwarden, Keeper, Proton Pass, those are the three that really, really have stood out in my research as the highest level that go above and beyond to make sure that their service is as secure as possible. Now, here's the reality of the world we live in. There is no such thing as 100% secure system. Doesn't exist. But there are things that companies can do to make it so incredibly hard to hack or break in that it's theoretically not possible right now. It can be done, but not easily and not quickly. So what I mean to say is Bitwarden, Keeper, and Proton Pass in my research has proven that they have gone above and beyond to make sure that their product is as secure as it possibly can be. Now, we're going to work specifically with Bitwarden today because it is truly free. You can have your Bitwarden vault forever with as many records as you want. The only thing is, it's only for you. There's no family sharing, and there's no dark web monitoring on the free version. So that is the limitation with the Bitwarden product. Is the free version will give you a wonderful vault to learn how to use a password vault, but it won't give you the necessary dark web scanning that you really, really need in today's world. So with that, let's talk about what you should expect. When you migrate from one habit to another, you're changing habits, and people don't like change. Changing habits is very, very difficult. Look at somebody who's trying to quit smoking or trying to change a bad habit to a new one. It takes about 28 days to do that, and it's not easy. So be aware that you're changing habits, you're learning a new tool, and you are going to want to quit. This is going to be frustrating. That's the way everybody I've worked with over my years in my career working on this subject, everybody has come to me and said, North, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is so hard. I want to quit. And I'm going to use my wife as an example. I worked with her for 4.5, 5 years on the password manager migration from going from an old notebook. She used to have a notebook with her passwords to a password manager. And over the last 2 years, she's actually finally gotten to the point where she's like, you know what? I can't go back. I can't go back to the notebook because digital password management is so much easier and so much more user friendly. But it took her a couple of years to get into the rhythm, to change that habit and fully use the new tool. Now, I'm not saying if you choose to do this, it's going to take you years. All I'm saying is give yourself time, give yourself grace because you're changing habits, you're learning a new tool, and that frustration is going to be real. So that's why we usually, when we're working on this, we do it in group settings because that way, working through difficult things on teams actually makes it a little bit easier to get through. But what's the goal? What are we trying to do? You are going to be much more secure. You're going to be much more organized. There's going to be a lot less clutter, pages of scribbled out notes and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, is this password good? Do I have to go reset the password? That clutter is going to be much more controlled because it's in a single place. And you're going to have much more control over your password management, your online identity, and that peace of mind. That's going to be huge because I've had so many clients that are like, I look at these data breach news and I'm like, am I involved? And you're going to know, are you involved? Because you're going to get an alert that your password was involved. So that peace of mind is definitely, definitely a huge benefit. The bottom line is the juice is definitely worth the squeeze on this project to better manage your passwords. So just be aware up front, your brain is going to want to stop, but you just have to remember why you're doing it. The risk of not taking action. This is what you have to do is you have to remember why. Why are we doing this? Because the risk of not taking action, if you don't take action, great. But I can tell you that from experience, folks that don't take action, that find out that their password is bad because their account has been taken over, it makes that it makes migrating much harder because doing it in a controlled environment that you control the pace and the flow is much easier than after the fact if you have an account that's been compromised trying to rush to regain to take that control. That's a much more difficult environment to be in. So remember why we're doing this now before the worst case scenario plays out. The risk of not taking action currently, the lack of control that you may or may not have over your records. Are they accurate? Are they good? The chaos, because let's face it, there is some chaos, even if it's small controlled bursts of chaos. When you go to log into a critical account and you can't because it says it's a bad password, that creates anxiety, that creates frustration, it creates that chaos. And also, you're more likely to be targeted because if you're in multiple data breaches and you've done nothing to manage your passwords, the bad guys have the data, the username, password, and the website. And if they break into one account, they're going to go, well, if I broke into this one account, what else can I get into? So you're more likely to be targeted if folks are able to log in. The bad guys are able to log into your accounts without you knowing because you're not monitoring your password. And the other thing is it's harder to get support. So if you're ever in a situation where you need a family member or somebody to support you for whatever reason, it's much harder to share your credentials with somebody to be able to get into accounts to help support, like in a situation where you may need somebody to pay bills or manage emails or something of that sort. That's what we mean by support. So at the end of this journey, you're going to be able to take control. You're going to become more informed. Okay, it's going to be easier to manage your online credentials. You're less likely to fall victim because you are now being alerted and you can take action, preventative action, before the bad thing happens. And then it's also, if you need support from family, you're going to be able to go, hey, here's the information you're going to need to do this while I'm away or while whatever scenario plays out. You're going to be able to get much better support because you're more organized. Bottom line is, this is worth the effort. Okay. So remember that as we move forward. So let's get to work. Where are you going to use your password manager? This is the thing that most folks really need to, you need to map it. And here's the thing. You're going to use your password manager on computers, phone, tablets, and in browsers across multiple devices, across multiple systems. You're going to use your password manager pretty much everywhere. Okay. So in your digital world, you need to figure out, what does my computing environment look like? Where do I need to have password management? And the short answer is on every single device, everywhere, because passwords are stored in your phone, in your tablets, in your computer, in your browsers. Your passwords are stored sometimes in 5 or 6 different places. So that's where we're going to use these efforts to manage those passwords. So as far as a third party password manager goes, and even the browser password manager, remember this: as long as you have internet connection, or cellular connection, um, you have access to your vault, okay, or your password manager, as long as you're connected to the internet. And I love, I actually had somebody several times when I give this class, they're like, well, North, what happens if I don't have the internet? Well, the bottom line is, if you don't have internet, you're not logging in anywhere anyway, because you can't make that connection to the website. So it really doesn't matter if you don't have internet. You can't log into anything anyway. So bottom line is, as long as you've got internet or cellular connection, you're going to have access to your vault. So bottom line is, things to know. Uh, the password manager is a central place to store all of your passwords and pass keys. Records are not stored on a specific device. They're not stored on your computer. They're not stored on your phone. They're not stored in your tablet. That's the state that we want to get to. Right now, they currently are stored in all of these different places. So the password manager process is to get them all into a universal single place. Now, let's talk about passkeys here real quick. Okay. So passkeys, I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds on this, but passkeys are super strong encrypted passwords. So really the only thing that you need to know about a passkey is current limits of passwords are 64 characters. So that's the longest a password can be. Passkeys are 1,024 characters long. They're super long, and they are tied to your device. The computer creates these, so you'll never know what your passkey is, because it's a super long string of letters and numbers to keep your identity protected. Okay. And they're specifically tied to your computer. So let's look at this for a second. The computer logs it. You are on your computer, your device, whichever device it is. You're going to log into a website, and you may have a pop-up that says, hey, do you want this website to store a passkey? If you're given that option, always say yes, because passkeys by design are much more secure than passwords. So if you are prompted to save a passkey, always say yes. Okay, because it makes things a little bit easier. So let's talk about um, where and how passkeys are stored. Okay, and this is where passkeys can get a little bit confusing. Is passkeys are designed to be a relationship between your device and the website that you're logging into. Okay, so we're going to take Amazon, for example. The passkey is generated between your device and the website. So if you log into Amazon on your computer, that's going to be one passkey. If you log in on your phone, that's going to be another passkey. If you log in from a tablet, that's going to be another passkey. And then the browser of choice, you may have a different passkey for each different browser. So the confusing part here is it can quickly proliferate. So let's go Walmart. There we go. And now instead of 4 passkeys, we now have 8. But I go to my bank. So now quickly your passkeys can compile, and you've got a lot of different passkeys for a lot of different devices. This is really, really confusing to folks. If you're confused now, welcome to the club. It's a big deal for folks to understand this. So understand that the passkey is a connection between your device and the website you're logging into. Okay. So how do we simplify this? Yeah, that's a lot of passkeys. So storing your passkey in your password manager minimizes the number of passkeys generated. Each device uses one passkey stored in your password vault. So let's simplify this. Say you're using Bitward as your password manager. Okay. You log into Amazon. That passkey for Amazon for all of your devices, because you're using your password manager across all of your devices, that passkey is stored in your password manager. So you've got one passkey for Amazon across all your devices because your password manager is what's managing this. Okay. So this is what makes passkey management a lot easier. You're never going to create a password. The system automatic or a passkey. The system automatically does it, but you need to know where you're storing those passkeys. The password manager makes it very, very easy for passkey management. Okay. So that's another reason why I would jump on, get a password manager today so that you can start toying around with it and playing with it to see how it works. So that's really where we're at as far as the functionality of things. Okay, so we're going to jump into some demonstrations here real quick. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to generate passwords right now online safely and easily. So oh good, my password is locked. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock my vault here. Come on. There we go. Okay, so I'm in my vault. So first things first, let's go here and I am going to this website. It is in your handout. Give me 1 second. Now, this is an incredibly powerful tool. It's an online password generator powered by Bitwarden. Okay. So what this is a free password generator. So if you want to generate your own passwords, if you're not ready to go to a password manager and you just want to update your passwords, this site, which is in the handout, will allow you to generate passwords very, very quickly. If you want to do complicated new password, you literally just click regenerate password and you can create password after password, and you can set the minimum characters. I like mine to be more than 17, so I'll do 18 to 20, regenerate, 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 regenerate. So I've got my passwords. I no longer have to create my own passwords. Okay. And then you can do, wait a minute, I want to add uppercase, lowercase, number, and special characters. So now I can see, all right, I've got special care. I've got all four of the magic things for my password. Now, for the passphrase, those things that you may need to type, what you can do is click on passphrase, and it gives you a typable password, also known as a passphrase. And I can include a number and I can choose my word separator. What do I want the word separator to be? Now, again, the goal is to be more than 16 characters. So you can take it down to 3 words and regenerate. And there we go. We've got easy typable passwords that you can use right now. And then what you can do is literally copy the password. And let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and open an Excel spreadsheet. So if you're doing this at home on a spreadsheet, let's see here. Give me 1 second. All right. So here I can do website, username, password. And this is just an example of a digital. I'm sure some of you are already doing this. So we're going to say email and me@me.com. And then the password that I just created, I just copied it off the website. So here, copy the password. And then I want to put it in my digital format. I just paste. And now I've got that password. I didn't have to type it. So that's how you can do this easily if you want to continue using the spreadsheet. Okay. So with that, this is bottom line how you generate passwords to immediately hit that new password for every account. This you can usually do in a few hours, where you update the password, then you have to go update the website to change the password at the website. So this is to get that number one, get different passwords for every site. So let's talk about test password strength. Okay, so we're going to come in here now and we are going to go to this next website where, hey, I want to find out how strong and how healthy is my password. So housesecurity.org, fantastic website. So let's do this. I'm going to copy this password, Python unimpeded 5 pouring. So I'm going to come over here and I want to test to see how how long would it take a computer? It's saying it would take a computer about 100 octillion years to break that password. So that's a really strong, really good password that you can auto generate and then test to make sure that it's good to go. Okay, make sure that it's safe to use. So that's number one and number two. So let's talk about what does the vault look like. Okay, this is my practice vault. Now this is, as you can see, Bitwarden Password Manager. In order to sign up, it's as difficult as going to the website that's in your handout. It's vault.bitwarden.com and creating a new password vault. It's simple, step by step, but it's going to give you a place to store your passwords. Okay. Now, again, we are not talking about storing them on your computer. This is stored in the Bitwarden cloud environment. And they've got, I think the last count, like 86 different cloud backup locations. So if one goes down, there's 85 other duplicates. So your bottom line is you're never going to be without your passwords because they're always going to be available online. So how does it work? So basically, the way that it works is you're going to create a new record. And a record is, in this case, a login. So after you set up your Bitwarden vault, your Bitwarden account, you can come in and start populating your vault with records. So we're going to go log in. We're going to create a new one. Let's see here. Let's go Disney Plus. Disney Plus. And then folder, that's just for organizational. If you've got different folders for different things, in this case, we're just going to add it to the vault. We're going to say it's me@me.com. So again, here's where we're going to put in the three portions. We've got the username, we've got the password, and we're going to say that this is password one. So a really weak password at this point. Whoops. All right. Let's see here. Oh, bounced out of it. Disney Plus. Okay. Manually me@me.com. Password is password one. We're going to save that. Okay. So now we've got, wow, look at that. I've got all of my different password managers popping up. So we're going to say the password is used as found in a data breach. So that's the browser telling me that the password that I saved is in a data breach. That automatically occurs because I'm using Google Chrome. That's fantastic. And then I've also got Keeper that I'm using. But bottom line is here, we've got our record created. Now, we've got three parts of a record. I gave it a username and password, but I didn't give it the website. So what we're going to want to do is, so now we come here, we've got our Disney Plus, but it's an incomplete record. We need to add the password. So we're going to come in here and edit, or not the password, but the website. So you need to add the website. So we're going to go www.disneyplus.com. And it may be Disney Plus or whatever it is. In fact, let's do this. Let's go to Disney Plus or Disney Plus login to find there it is, Disney Plus account. So it is actually disneyplus.com. So we'll go into that login page. And what makes it easy is once that login page pops up, here's where we're going to use. I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to highlight it and right click and copy it. And then I'm going to come back over to my vault. And I can literally come in and paste this. And so now once I save it, watch what happens to that icon. See how it changed from just a little wire globe? Goodness, all sorts of pops up. This wire globe to a Disney Plus icon. So that when you are working in your password vault, you can quickly see, are my records complete? Because if it's an incomplete record, if it's missing a username, if it's missing a password, or if it's missing the website, it's not going to give you the icon to show that this is like, for example, Disney Plus shows it went from a globe to the Disney Plus icon, showing that it is now a complete record. So again, if I come in here or if I click on this, I'm going to see that it is username, password, and website. So there's the three parts of that record. And I can see that it was last changed at 313, March 13th, 2023. So it gives me, it was last edited April 18th, 2024. So it tracks as you go. So not only does it give you password management in the form of it's all in one place, it gives you history, what's happened with that password. So, but that is high level. That is how this works. So the other thing is there is a browser extension, which we'll talk about that real quick. When you sign up for a Vault, you want to make sure that it's attached to all of your browsers on all of your devices so that you can use them. So if we go to Disney Plus, I can click here, and so it will resync. And now it's got the Disney that we just added. So from here, we're going to fill, so we can see that it auto-filled my email. We're going to hit continue. And then here we've got, it's going to, Disney automatically has the MFA where it's going to send the code to the email address. This is not actually a Disney account. This is just an example for demonstration purposes how the autofill works. A couple of things to pay attention to is here we've got our Bitwarden extension that we've added, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a second. Um, but it says the number one. It shows that I've got a record stored for this website. Okay, so this is the other thing that's really cool and really powerful about password managers is if you navigate to a website that you may have a website in your notebook for, and you're logging into that website for the first time, your password manager is going to capture it. So you don't have to manually build it. It will automatically grab it as you log in. So that's the other cool part about using a password manager is you don't necessarily have to manually put your passwords in. As you just naturally navigate to websites that you go to, your password manager will grab those credentials as you go along. So one thing I do want to show here is now the tool that you need to install is what's called a browser extension. So in this case, I'm using Google, so Bitwarden Chrome extension. So you're going to go to the Chrome Web Store, and then you are going to simply Bitwarden Password Manager add to Chrome. And then it's going to say, do you want to add this? You hit yes. And then a few seconds later, that tool that allows you to access your vault from any website and on any computer anywhere, it becomes available. So now we've got that Bitwarden Password Manager door right there. Okay. And this is where you can log in to your vault on any computer anywhere on any device to get to your passwords. So again, that's the key mechanism to get your password vault on any computer so that you can you can manage your passwords anywhere on any site on any computer. It's just that little extension. So with that, that's really wrapping up the demo for the password vault. Now, I know I went 100 miles an hour on this. Let's talk about a couple of other concepts here. So we've looked at the password manager, we've looked at how it functions and how to create your vault. The other thing is it's not just for passwords. We can also do a lot of critical, like your IDs, your credit cards, software licenses, critical documents like insurance, estate documents, deeds, titles. And if you have all of it saved in one place, you never really have to ask that question, oh my gosh, where did I save it? Because it's all in one place that's easy to get to from anywhere. So let's, again, things to remember here. If your head is swimming, that's natural. Again, because we're talking about new tools, new habits, there is a learning curve here. So you need to give yourself time. You are learning a new tool, and you got to give yourself that grace to really go and take this journey. Reach out for help. FCTC, they have online labs every other Friday. They've got in person. Now, they can help with basic functionality of password managers. They're not going to go too deep in the weeds with your personal records, but they can help with the functionality of password managers, help you iron out and clarify some of this. The other thing to keep in consideration is passwords. They're starting to get phased out in place of pass keys. So without having to trouble yourself with, oh my gosh, I don't understand pass keys, having that password manager is going to be super, super critical to manage pass keys because A lot of folks are really concerned and confused about passkeys. Answer to the question is start using a password manager, and that passkey management is automatic as part of your password manager. Good news is you only have to do this once. You're only going to have to learn how to use it once. And once you get familiar with it, it's going to be the same functionality moving forward. So once you're past that learning curve, I don't want to say it's 100% smooth sailing, but it's about 97% smooth sailing. You are going to have much better control and much better peace of mind. So with that, I think I've got the Bitwarden Proton Pass Keeper. Have I been pwned? It's all in your documentation if you need to get it. I will put them in the chat so you can easily resource them. But there's some tools for password managers and data breaches. And then here is the contact information for SCTC. So now, yes, Bobsky, we're gonna hit some questions here. So Sonny had the question: can you trust password manager apps or browsers? So this is a two-part question. It's trust is on a scale of 1 to 100%. So it's not a binary yes no. So browsers on a level of trust, I'm at about a 55%. Maybe not, because there's too much room for error in a browser. I trust password manager apps much more than I do browsers because they are designed to be secure from the start. So when it comes to trust, 90% or higher, I've got that level of trust for third-party password managers because they are built from the ground up to be secure and to make it very, very difficult for the bad guys to get to your passwords. So browsers, they're not designed for that level of security, which is why it's a 50-50, depending on the browser you're using. So I hope, Sonny, I hope that answers a question about level of trust for the password manager apps versus the browsers. All day long, twice on Tuesday, password manager third-party apps have my trust because I've vetted them and I've really looked deep into them. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I just wondered though, you were also putting them on a spreadsheet. So if anybody hacked your computer, they could still get those better passwords if you had them on a spreadsheet.
100%. So I was using that for demonstration purposes only. I do not keep my passwords in a spreadsheet anywhere on any computer. I was using that for demonstration purposes for folks that may be using a spreadsheet now, how they can use that Bitwarden online password generator to generate the good password and then copy and paste it into that spreadsheet. So I was just using that for demonstration purposes for folks that do currently use that spreadsheet.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Bobsky, was there another question that you wanted to point out?
Yeah, it was. So I still have to type in a password even though Bitwarden is generating them? Question mark.
Do I still have to type a password even though Bitwarden is typing or generating the password? So let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to go back to my vault. Okay. So if I do Amazon login and I want to launch, so it will take me to Amazon. Okay. And then from here, we're going to go to sign in. So now again, I've got two different password managers fighting. My primary one is Keeper. But here, what I need to do is I need to log in for the autofill to work. Okay. You have to be logged in to your password manager for the autofill to work. Let me just get logged in here and it'll make sense. So paste and log in. And so it automatically sends me the multi-factor code. And then here we go. So this is how it works. See how it went from gray to blue? That tells me that I am logged into my vault and that autofill functionality is going to work. So if I've created a record in my password manager, it's going to tell me that I've got that record here. Okay. So all I have to do is click on this and I've got an option to fill. And so it's automatically going to fill and then it's going to come in here and autofill that password. Okay. So that's how the autofill functions. So even though it's a super complex password, you don't have to type it. Now, this is awesome because Amazon is one of the sites that have transitioned to passkeys. So in that passkey portion of the presentation, we talked about using passkeys in a password manager environment. So Bitwarden is saying, hey, do you want to log in with a passkey? I don't have a passkey for this application. So right here, it's saying close, or you can add passkey. Now I'm not going to add that passkey now because I've actually got it with my regular password manager. This is just my demo, but you can add that passkey and it's automatically saved in your password manager. So let me show you what that looks like on my normal. So here I've got my Amazon sign in for my personal, and I've got this little icon right here that says I have a passkey. It's stored in my password manager, and it tells me when I created that passkey. And so that's how I can quickly manage my passkeys as well, because the password manager grabs them when you log in. So went way beyond the autofill, but here, yes, in the password manager, if you're logged in, you've got a fill button that says it will autofill. So whatever this password, whatever this credential is, it will automatically fill it. So you don't have to type your passwords. So does that answer the question?
There is
Okay.
another one
Okay.
from Kathy.
Let's see here. If the same email address is used for multiple website accounts and they're so easy to steal, why are websites moving away from usernames where you'd have, okay, so usernames, we need to be very clear about usernames and passwords. So username is the method at which the company will contact you at. Okay. Now, there are some sites that are forcing you to come up with a unique username. But for the past 20, 30 years, they've used your email as your login ID or username because that's also the method at which they're going to communicate you need to change your password. So that email, that's never going to change because that's just the username to identify who you are. Okay. So that's not really something that companies really focus on securing because the email address is open, common knowledge. You're using it to send and receive emails all day. That is not necessarily protected and encrypted information, the email address. The portion that we're concerned about is the password. That's the part that we need to make complex and protect at all costs because the email, it's out there. You can't really do anything about protecting your email because it's a common method of communication. And most websites use that email to identify who you are when you log in. Kathy had another question. Why would we move to passkeys if they're tied to one specific device? So here's the reason why the world is moving to passkeys, because over 30 years, people are terrible at passwords. People are terrible at password management. They want to use weak passwords. And security, global security right now is at great risk because people are unable to properly manage passwords. So we are moving to pass keys because the system, the computers and the websites that we work with, they take over that password management by creating pass keys that are super long, super complex, that the computer's like, I got this, I'll take care of it. They're much harder to breach because they're not stored anywhere. They're handed off the moment you log in. The website goes, I have this pass key. Do you have this pass key? Yep, we're good. And then so there's nothing to intercept in between. So that's why they're moving to pass keys because they're much stronger. And that way it takes the management out of the human hands. The downside is it does require, it is that device connection where your computer will have a passkey, your phone will have a passkey, your tablet will have a passkey. Each one is a unique passkey number, 1024 characters long, to allow you to log in. So is it perfect? No, but it's the best thing. It's the best they've been able to come up with over 30 years to really start dialing in security for people to log in because folks have been, generally, and I'm globally speaking, people are really bad at password management, and that's why we're seeing so many data breaches everywhere is because of bad password hygiene and management. So, another question: is email password and website encrypted and or stored in different parts of the cloud in the password managers? Kathy, so the way that this works is when you create a password vault, it is data that you are storing in the vault. When you close that vault, meaning you leave that website or you leave the browser, that vault door shuts and it becomes a blob of encrypted information. So even if the company is hacked, they're not going to get your vault. They're going to get a blob of information that they're not going to be able to read that information. Okay. The only way that your vault data can be read is through that password or that master password. So a hacker breaks into Bitwarden, gets your vault. They just get a blob of data that is unreadable. The only way that they can get that vault contents is if they also have your master password. So the vault company has designed it to where even they can't access your vault information. It's just a blob of information until you enter that password, and then it decrypts it. So that's what makes it so safe, is even the vault company can't see your data. So if it's hacked, it doesn't matter because the bad guys are just going to get a jumbled ball of encrypted data. So, and parts of the cloud, yes, it's called redundancy. They have your blob of data stored in multiple different locations in the cloud throughout the United States. So, if, say, the St. Louis server goes down or the Denver server goes down, they can immediately tie into St. Louis and the Nebraska and the Utah servers so that you're always able to access your blob of data whenever you need it. So that's how encryption with a vault works to keep it safe, and then how it's your vault is stored in multiple locations. It's called redundancy so that you're always able to grab it. So hopefully that answers that question. Splash ID, let's move on to this. I've been using Splash ID for years, but not to generate passwords, just as a repository for my passwords, benefits of my credit cards, bank accounts, passports. The app can be glitchy. Could AI help me migrate into a new password manager? So there's a couple things to unpack here. First and foremost, I am not familiar with Splash ID. I've heard the name, but I've never actually played with it. So being a repository, or again, that vault to store your records, passport records, passwords, all of your personal information, that's a good idea to keep it in one place. But again, you're entrusting it to Splash ID. And again, I don't know anything about them. So you're entrusting all of that critical data to a company to protect your information. And you're hoping that they've got that really good encryption in place. So if Splash ID ever gets hacked, that your data is unreadable by anybody who hacks them. Now, second part of this question is, could AI help me migrate into a new password manager? The answer to that is yes, but it's two parts. AI will give you the instructions on how to do it, but it can't physically do it because it doesn't have access to your old password manager and your new one. So what it's going to do is it's going to give you the step-by-step instructions of how to do it, but you're still going to have to manually go through the steps to migrate. So yes, AI can help you with instructions, but AI can't do the work for you. All right, let's see. Moving on. Do any update function often, or do they tend to stay stable? Great question here, because this is the updates of the password managers. Now, they update frequently because of the world that we live in. There's a lot of changes that are happening across uh, all the browsers. They update about weekly at this point. The password managers have to keep up with them. So here's the cool thing about the password manager when you put it in, when you actually put it in the browser here. Okay. When you actually have it put in the browser, that extension automatically updates. So the updates occur. You don't have to do anything. Okay. The update is pushed by Bitwarden. So the updates come on a regular cadence. You don't have to do anything with that. So those updates are behind the scenes. It's fantastic. It's only on a major occurrence would we have to actually go and manually update the browser extension. I've been using these, like I said, for 6 or 7 years, and I think there's only been 2 occurrences where I actually had to uninstall the browser extension and then reinstall it because of a major version update. So to answer your question, day to day, no, the updates happen behind the scenes. They take care of it for you. You don't have to worry about the update function. It's fantastic. And yes, they are very stable. Another great question: does Bitwarden provide an option to upgrade, for example, to allow someone else to have access to my vault, like my attorney, if I'm incapacitated? Yes, yes, yes. This is a very, very important feature here. So you can actually come in to account settings and you actually have the option to name somebody for emergency access. So within 2 clicks, and I'll show you how I did this again. So I'm going to go back to my vault. Gloria, this is, and okay, so it's already trying to sell me. Okay. This is 3 mouse clicks and an email. Okay, this is really, really important for you to understand. You're going to click on your uh, your little icon, your identity or your profile, go to account settings, scroll down to emergency access, and then from here, designated as emergency contact, you can name, I believe it's one on the free version. You've not designated anyone as an emergency contact, so you can actually you can add them, but it does look like you have to upgrade. So that used to be free. Now you actually have to have an upgraded version to do that. But that's how you do it. Name emergency access. That way you can give it to your attorney, your next of kin, whoever you need to. Um, so really, really great, important question there. Um, and I think that's gone through. Does anybody else have any verbal questions that they want to unmute their mic and come off mute to ask?
I do.
Great.
Um, and that is, I worry about the free, I can afford to upgrade, etc. Um, I know a lot of people who use Bitwarden and love it, but I worry about a company that offers so much free. Are they going to be around long enough? Or are they, is the business going to go under?
That's a great question, and I can tell you because I've reviewed Bitwarden extensively. Okay, so Bitwarden is part of 3 companies that are part of this initiative to better online security. And because of that, they don't only have enterprise funding because they do personal password managers, they do enterprise password managers, but they've also got funding from donations and government subsidies because they operate in a lot of research projects for governments around the world. Without getting too deep into the weeds here, they are a very stable company that's going to be around a long time because what they do, it isn't just, hey, we're making money off of if somebody buys a password manager. They're offering the password manager to better society so that we can get to a place of better password management and pass keys, and they want to do it there. This is why I love them, is because they're not driven by, well, we're only going to make money off of everybody. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. They've given us the free tools to learn the mechanisms with. And if we want any of the premium services like the dark web monitoring, then we can choose to pay for that. But the tool itself, this is why I love Bitwarden, is they have given us the tool to learn the fundamental functions of Password Manager for free, but the company's not going anywhere anytime soon. Great question. All right. Any other questions today? We are right at about 11:30 at time. If you have to run, I totally understand. But is there any other questions, or hopefully everybody got something out of today?
I have one more question, Kathy.
Sure.
So thanks for all the answers on my previous ones. But so you're talking about like attaching your Vault to a browser, and
Mhm.
you showed the example of doing it to Chrome, and then you said you could, wherever you are in the world, whatever computer you're on, it'll work. But is that if you're using Chrome still as a browser, or like if you're traveling, you're using someone else's computer, they use DuckDuckGo.
Sure.
And so do you have to attach DuckDuckGo then to your vault?
So you've got a couple of things that you can do. You don't have to add the vault. You can actually just go to the Vault website. And again, let me share my screen one more time because you can go to the website, um, and it will create a very secure connection so here I'm actually on the website. I don't have to add the browser extension to any browser. I mean, it's an option because it makes it faster, but you can actually just log directly into that website and access your credentials if you need to, or documents if you need to, because that connection only exists as long as you are actively logged in. The second that you close that browser, um, that vault door shuts and nobody can come in behind you to access. Oops, I'm not sharing my screen. Hang on. Sorry. There we go. So once you're on the website, bitwarden.com, your vault, you're logged in, you've got access to your credentials and whatever you've got stored in your vault access is only there as long as you are actively logged in. The second that you close this browser, and I'm going to demo this here real quick. See how it's blue and it's logged in? If I were to close my browser and then come back to the Bitwarden Vault, so we'll go to Bitwarden Login. Because I left the website, I now have to log back in to get back to that website. So that's what makes it accessible anywhere in the world safely, is because it only allows you to log in as long as you're on that website. The second that you close that browser or that window, that vault door shuts again.
Okay, thank you.
You betcha. All right. If there are no other questions today, I hope that you got something out of this.
I did
Yeah.
have another question in the chat. I
Okay.
use 5 different browsers for different reasons.
Got it.
Which, so I'm looking at either Bitwarden, which I'll upgrade, or is it 1Password or Password One or
It's
whatever?
one
I forget the
password.
name.
Yeah.
1Password
Mhm.
accommodates that situation of having 5 different browsers, and I could add more later.
Certainly. So that's the other, that brings up a really great question, Gloria. When you're choosing your password manager, you want to make sure that it's functional in every browser available. Now, there are some browsers that do not allow for extensions to be added, so there's no password manager that's going to work on those. But when you're choosing between your browser, whether it's Edge, Safari, Firefox, Opera, Brave, doesn't matter, DuckDuckGo, whatever browser you're going to choose, check to see if that extension, if you can use that extension. You can do a quick search, go like Firefox Bitwarden extension. Does it have an extension available? If it doesn't, then you may want to think about, do I want to use that password manager because it's not usable in my browser of choice? Great question. EJ asked, what's the difference between the free Bitwarden and the upgraded? So the difference between free and upgraded, the free version is just a bucket for you to store your records, usernames, passwords, websites, documents. You can store your things there. It will always be free and unlimited. Okay. The difference between free and upgraded, once you upgrade, you start getting the dark web monitoring. You start getting the emergency contact. You start getting extra features that are considered benefits above and beyond basic functionality, but they do come with a cost. So that's the difference between free and upgraded. Is free, you get basic storage, basic functionality, basic autofill, basic password generation. But the paid version will give you that dark web monitor to let you know, hey, I'm using a bad password. It will give you the ability to bring family members on as trusted emergency contacts to support you in your time of need. So that's the big difference. Great question. All right. Well, we've gone
I'm
five.
sorry, one more, one more.
Sure. No worries. This is
I'm
great.
probably going to go to a digital executor, a paid digital executor.
Okay.
Um, when I'm at the point, I'm probably going to pick a password manager before I pick a digital executor, but will in your knowledge of this growing industry here, um, do they, are they likely to raise, oh, we only use this kind or the other kind? Because I don't want to have to redo everything with another password manager.
That's a really interesting question. So the question is, Gloria is looking to hire a digital executor service, and the question is, should I follow the recommendation of the digital executor that I have to use this tool? There's two sides to that question. One of which is the digital executor service that you're hiring may only really know the ins and outs of one password manager, maybe the one that their team, their company is familiar with. So they may say, hey, use this tool because we can support you using this tool. That's not unheard of. But as and I am one of those professional digital executors, and I meet the client where they are, meaning it doesn't matter which password manager you use because they all have the same functionality. The rule of thumb is in digital executorship and digital legacy is pick one that everybody agrees on and stick with it. That's basically the bottom line. So if you're going to a digital executive service, find out, hey, do you support me no matter which tool I use, or do you require me to use one? And if they say, we require you to use one, ask them why. Why are you locking me into one vendor? It shouldn't be something that they do. But yeah, ask those follow-up questions. Why are you forcing me to use this password manager? So great question. Oh, and one last thing. Let me do this here real quick. I can't believe that I forgot this. So I gave you the SCTC information. Let me just leave this here for you. I'm going to share this. If you have follow-up questions outside of classroom, like I said, I'm available to answer questions most days, most times. Here's how you can get a hold of me outside of SCTC. If you've got questions that you don't necessarily want to raise in the class today, go ahead and shoot me an email, shoot me a text. Here's where you can reach me outside of SCTC with my firm that helps consult folks on this very thing. So with that, we're going to wrap up because oh my goodness, we're 8 minutes over. I do appreciate the patience today. Thank you so much for attending. I hope that you got something out of today. And again, hit me up if you have any questions and stop by the SCTC drop-in labs or the Zoom calls on every other Friday because that's a great place to get additional questions answered if you want that one-on-one time. So with that, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next class. Cheers.